Every country in the world has some form of corruption. Even the superpowers like the US have large levels of corruption, especially in the financial system. However, there are other forms of corruption that are far more sinister, so in this list we'll be showing you the top 5 most corrupted countries in the world. We would like to give a big shout out to viewer Dylan Seaton for suggesting this video. Number 5. Iraq. Many people may be surprised that Iraq isn't higher on the list of the world's most corrupted countries, but it certainly is up there. It's no secret the current state of affairs in Iraq is a total mess. After the second American invasion in 15 years, the pullout of US forces has left Iraq a virtual power vacuum, with several different groups fighting for power over the embattled nation. Fighting is mostly concentrated between the Kurds, the Shiites and the Sunnis, but the arrival of ISIS from Syria has added additional issues. The CIA lists Iraq's government as a parliamentary democracy, but the legitimacy of the government is definitely up for debate. However, there's little debate as to whether or not corruption has taken hold in the country, as Iraq's vast wealth and natural resources have made it a target for all kinds of industry and war profiteers. Iraq has, however, actually seen some economic growth as the country rebuilds itself, but there is a lot of outside interference from American and European contracting companies hired to rebuild infrastructure and tap into the country's oil reserves. The future of Iraq is probably as uncertain as any other country in the world. It's very possible that the nation will dissolve and turn into 3 distinct countries, as it was before Europeans entered the fray in the early 20th century. As for now, incredible instability along with the arrival of ISIS from the north will keep the country in a state of flux. Number 4. Afghanistan. Afghanistan has an incredibly difficult history to try and condense. The area has been inhabited for a very long time, and its geographic location has also put it in the middle of many conflicts over hundreds, if not thousands of years. There's a reason the country has been stuck with the nickname the Graveyard of Empires, as it's incredibly difficult to not only conquer but also keep under control. The country has been loosely held together by a central government that largely lacks power, and has been carved up by local tribal leaders and warlords, as we've seen firsthand with the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. The country's now former president Hamid Karzai was notoriously corrupt. He's been recently busted for taking bagfuls of money from the American military, among other things. Afghanistan is also home to an enormous amount of the world's heroin production, which has also brought lots of wealth to a lucky few. The country's economy has remained in a state of flux for some time now, although the fall of the Taliban and the flood of international aid has helped. But it still faces major issues going forward. As the CIA puts it, criminality, insecurity, weak governments, lack of infrastructure, and the Afghan government's difficulty to extending rule of law to all parts of the country pose challenges to future economic growth. Number 3. Sudan. One country that's been wrapped thoroughly in the grasp of war for many years is the African nation of Sudan. Long-standing conflicts between competing factions and ethnic groups have destabilized the country's ability to efficiently operate from an economic standpoint, and the results have been devastating to many of the country's citizens. South Sudan has recently broken off from the rest of the country, taking with it vast oil reserves. The country's government is listed as a federal republic, which is ruled by the National Congress Party. The NCP came to power in 1989 and has not been able to successfully repair the country's issues. As a result of the prolonged instability, Sudan's GDP has tanked since spiking in 2006, much of which has to do with the situation in South Sudan. An alarming 64.5% of Sudan's citizens live under the poverty line. This is primarily due to the fact that the country's corrupt officials do not help their citizens, and their policies inhibit any useful growth for the country. Number 2. Somalia. Somalia may just be the most unstable country on the entire planet. The country has become infamous in the United States as being a setting for the Black Hawk Down incident, as well as the country's pirates who are known to take over passing ships in the Gulf of Aden and Indian Ocean. The country is barely held together by an incredibly loose central government and is more accurately being run by a number of competing clans and warlords, creating lots of hostility and division. Life in Somalia is notoriously tough. On the economic front, many people make a living from raising livestock or farming, and others from fishing. Of course, with things remaining such a mess at the top of the power structure, any long-term planning for social programs and infrastructure is difficult. According to the World Bank, only 29% of the population has been enrolled in school, and life expectancy is only 55 years. Both of these numbers rank well below most other countries and provide some insight into the internal strife the country is experiencing. Beyond these things, information on the inner workings of Somalia's government and economic system is scarce. That alone is rather telling, as corrupt officials may not want outsiders seeing the true picture of what's going on inside the country's borders. Number 1. North Korea. The world's biggest wildcard is North Korea. There is little doubt in anyone's mind that the country is immensely corrupt, having been effectively run into the ground over the past half-century by Kim Jong-sung, Kim Jong-il and now Kim Jong-un, all of whom the country's citizens affectionately have referred to as Supreme Leader. The CIA lists North Korea's government as a communist state one-man dictatorship. Notorious for having very little electricity and sending its citizens to prison camps, North Korea's government and economy are effectively shrouded in mystery. While it does receive aid from countries like China, North Korea obviously has had some problems producing enough fuel and food to properly care for its citizens. However, military spending far outweighs spending on social programs and aid, mostly to put on appearances for the rest of the world and to keep citizens in line. The country's major issues can be traced back to a number of natural disasters and the collapse of the Soviet Union. With little hope for change in the near future, North Korea is destined to remain one of the planet's most corrupted nations. Thank you for watching, and if you have a video idea, why not leave a comment below, and if we make it, we'll give you a big shout out. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome daily lists of all things 5. This is All 5, and until next time, feed your mind.